Well, he is a tennis staple. It is Bob Moran. He leads the Credit One Charleston Open as president of Charleston Tennis LLC, formerly known as the Volvo Open. He has done such a great job in Charleston, leading what is the largest WTA event in North America. It is one of the best stops on tour every year. And we're going to look at his career, have some fun doing it because he's had the unconventional route to tennis. He's done a lot in golf. And he's done a lot of great things in Charleston. And so we're going to look at what he's done and what makes him inspirational. I'm Bryan Fenley, a commentator for the USTA. And Bob, appreciate you doing this. And when you look at what you've done in your tenure and in Charleston as president of Charleston Tennis LLC and what you've done running that prestigious tournament, what do you consider your finest achievement?
Wow. You could have given me a heads up on that one, Brian. But first of all, thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it. And you're right. This is definitely not the typical path within tennis. And if you were to ask me 20 years ago, if I thought I would be in women's tennis, I'd tell you absolutely not. I didn't think I would be. But I've enjoyed the journey without a question. And I would say tennis is one of the many things we do. I think most of the people on my team, including myself, are event people. You said it a little bit earlier, we've done a lot of different things here, from world team tennis to pro beach volleyball in the stadium to we do a series of concerts throughout the year. We've run golf events. We do a little bit of everything. And I really truly believe that's what's helped us as a tennis event, because we don't get locked solely on what goes on the court. We really focus a lot of our efforts on everything outside the court. So, what's that fan experience look like? What does the experience of walking in our front gate look like? What's the experiential side of things outside of the court? I really believe that has helped us through the years develop a good plan.
So one of the events you just talked about was having beach volleyball on site where you work. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but you had 80 dump trucks that came with sand and poured things on the court. How did you architect and orchestrate and choreograph that?
Well, I think I almost lost my whole team. Not getting it in. Dumping sand was okay. Getting sand out was
sure.
the problem. Yeah. But I'll tell you, it was fun for us just because it was different. But number two, those athletes, and many of them, were medalists in the Olympics, and, they would do anything to promote their sport. It was really a great experience for us from that side. If I needed them to throw a first pitch in at the minor league baseball park, go to a radio talk show, do anything to promote their sport, they would do it. And they would do it, without a question. And I think that was like almost inspirational for us to go back to a group that was saying, hey, we love what we do and we'll do anything to grow this sport. And I think we tried to take that feel into tennis and other things we do as well.
I think a clue for you, Bob, in seeing that you love everything that you do and you love tennis is watching you last year play the role of a ball person, or a ball man. What would you rate as far as your skills as a ball man and how you engineered that?
I stuck to that back wall like glue, man. I was not going to be. Number one, we had a great group of kids. It was right in the middle of COVID, so we were really, really cautious on everything we did. Matches went long that day, and the kids were worn out, and I had to send them home because that was close to midnight when that match came about. The players and the girls who participated, the young women who participated, were fantastic. It was interesting. It almost goes back to that AVP feel. They were willing to do anything to get back out there playing, to promote what we were doing. They were more active on social and everything that we asked them to do than they've ever been for me before, because they were, it was a time when we weren't doing anything. So sorry to get off topic, but it was that feeling. And I think that just kind of permeated through everybody who was involved. We were willing to do anything to make it go, but I had to send those kids out, and I said, hey, I'll go do it. Why not? And I got to tell you, what a great experience that was, to see the power and the strength and the abilities of our WTA players, on court right next to them, was pretty amazing. It was funny. Sophia Kennan, she didn't even know I was out there. She turned around to get the balls and looked at me and she goes, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go."
And if I'm not mistaken, Bob, that was like the first week-long event of tennis since, things had shut down. What was it like as far as you pulling that off from the perspective of knowing the pressure that came with that, knowing the tennis world was watching you to see how you did this, and knowing that you wanted obviously to do it safely, but you knew you wanted to really make an impact and show off to the rest of the tennis world that this can be done and that we can do this?
Yeah, number one, you have to have an owner who is supportive, and Ben Navarro is that owner for us. This is year 3 of his ownership of our event. We're renovating a new stadium. We're doing so many things to grow the game here. But at that moment in time, when we had to unfortunately cancel in April, I mean, we were right up to it with Miami and Indian Wells and us all building out ready to go in 2020. And then we had to cancel. He and I had a really frank discussion, said, "All right, how do we come out of this? And what do you think?" And I actually reached out to a couple of players, Madison Keys and Bethany Maddox Sands, Shelby Rogers, and then just said, "Hey guys, what do you think?" And they helped, curate what this event would be like, because they were all eager to get back and they were all eager to be involved. And I look at it now, I look back at it. I have this great picture in my office of both of the teams, and the smiles on their faces just being here it was so evident that people wanted to do it. But to your point, we had to do it safely. And we really felt like we could, because it was a small group and my team was small. I didn't have, a large group of people executing this because we could control it. And we had a great partner in Tennis Channel who was like, "Yeah, we're in. We need content. Let's go." And so we were able to do some fun things with the camera angles and the TV and all of that. But at the same time, we knew we had to be safe. It was funny. Jen Brady, every time Jen Brady wanted to run across the street to grab something, I said, "Jen, put your mask on." She started calling me. She goes, "Whatever you say, Dad." And I'm like, "Oh God." So, we had a lot of fun, but I found myself, that was the fun part. The not so fun part was, and it was the same with the tournament this year, testing every 3 days.
Sure.
And in my case, I had to test every other day. Is very sleepless nights, hoping against hope that email didn't come across that someone tested positive. So it was the same thing with the tournament, back in July, or the July before July. We had everyone tested. It worked out well, and there was a fear every night that, oh boy, is there going to be a call? Are we going to just have to shut this down? That's the tough part of the world we're in right now. And I feel for it. Anybody running events, and having to test and having to go through this process, it's a hard one, because you just don't want to get that email or that call in the middle of the night saying, "Hey, we got a problem." And I would say the WTA perspective, I think we've done it better than most. When you look at how we've run a season this year, we were able to get almost a full season and, take Asia out of our schedule. We were able to do more events. We were able to make up some events. Indian Wells happening in another week was one we're able to add to the schedule, because I think we did a really good job of it safely. But to go back to that first event, yeah, I was really happy to do it and excited to do it. And it was a fresh energy. But at the same time, when I went home at night, I'm like, wow, I hope I get up and I don't have to deal with issues the next morning.
The nervousness that you just talked about, that probably is connected to a lot of things, because first of all, you have such great relationships with these players. And the last thing you want is for something to get in the way of them being there, doing what they love as far as tennis. But certainly when you think about the star power, you don't want to lose that as well if somebody has to bow out. So when you look back at that tournament, what do you think all went into just having to be, I guess, a little bit anxious, like you said, and the sleepless nights? Like, what all amounted to you feeling that way? And what was your mindset that whole week? Just hoping and, crossing your fingers and just hoping it goes as smooth as possible, and knowing that there were some things that were still out of your control.
Yeah, I mean, there is no perfect bubble, and anyone who thinks there's a perfect bubble it's almost impossible to create a perfect bubble, and that's what we realized. But what we could do is, hey, let's make sure we're doing the things that we can do. To your point, what we could control. You know what? The players, they're staying at a hotel. Hey, let's make sure you're not going out to dinner. We're going to provide all your meals. Just do me those favors. And the players to a T. Those 16 players, there's a reason, right? We knew those players. We have relationships with either those players or closely with their agents that, hey, if we needed to have a hard discussion about someone maybe not doing what they needed to do, we could have that without affecting the relationships that we had. We chose players that we felt very comfortable with, that we knew would work with us in trying to achieve something that at that day and time was really, really difficult.
Bob Moran is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. What do you think about your personality is most appealing to the players, and why they love coming, and why they like the way you oversee your tournament and in other tennis activities in Charleston?
I would say number one, we have a team here that's been together, especially on the player side. Eleanor Adams, who has handled our player relationships for many, many years, 20 years, as long as I've been doing this as well. So I think there's some family feel to that. I think most importantly, they know that we care. They know that if it's important, if we come ask, we're not coming in to ask because we're just trying to knock something off a list. We're coming to ask them to do something for us because it means something. And we're never going to put them in a situation where they're doing a meaningless meet and greet or a meaningless autograph signing. I think players, you hear the positives and the negatives about experiences, but ours are usually really good, because I think that feeling that we care about what we're doing and we care about putting them in the right situations at all time, I think that makes a difference. And I'd say the other piece of that is we're here in the tennis world every day. I mean, I'm at the tennis facility right now. There's play going on every court. At our sister facility, we have junior programs going. So we don't come in and operate an event and leave. We're here all the time, and we're living tennis in this community, but the players know that we're committed to it on a year-round basis. I think that makes a difference as well.
You've been committed to tennis, but before that, and still to this day, you have this love affair with golf. How has your skills, the way in which you carry yourself on the golf course, being a teaching pro, playing in college at Elon, all contributed to the way in which you run things in Charleston from a tennis perspective? What experiences have you taken from golf that actually lend itself to helping who you've become today?
It's a great point. I mean, golf is something very similar to tennis. You're by yourself out there. So, it's an individual sport. You also play in team atmosphere, but when it comes down to it, you're by yourself out there. So I think I relate very well on both the golf and tennis side, because I understand that. I think in golf, you grow up very quickly around adults. When you're a kid, you're playing with adults all the time. You'll learn lessons about how to be around people. You get very comfortable with certain people. And I think that goes a long ways in how we treat people. So I find golf and tennis to be very similar in that effect, that number one, from a competitive standpoint, you're on your own. Number two, from how you deal with people and the type of people you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, you get very comfortable at a young age having those relationships and building those relationships. Both of golf is a little bit more interpersonal, where tennis, sometimes it's difficult to build a relationship on a tennis court. On the golf course, you're spending 4 hours with somebody. I'm pretty darn confident I'm going to walk off that golf course knowing that person pretty well. And I hate to throw this out there, but I'm finding pickleball to be very similar to golf in that respect. It's from a facility we're here, we're playing a lot of pickleball here, and people are taking to it very quickly, but it's much more social. And I think that's the attractiveness of it at this moment in time. I think that's why it's so popular. If I could build another 8 courts, I'd do it tomorrow, because it's unbelievable how fast that's growing.
Yeah,
but I think the nature of tennis, golf, pickleball, those things, I think they all relate well together.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. Bob Moran is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley, and a commentator on the Challenger Tour. And so as far as you mentioned relationships, being social, and even from a golf perspective, and that you go 4 hours and you play 18 holes and you really get to know somebody. So how well did you get to know Michael Jordan?
Where did you do your relationship? Where did you do your research? Wow.
I don't want to waste your time. I did my homework because I know you're a busy guy, and I'm just grateful for your time.
Well, it was interesting. Ahmad Rashad was a friend who I started to teach golf back in the day, and he was a very good tennis player. And here's what I know: if you give me a good tennis player when I was teaching golf, I could make him a good golfer.
Wow.
And I mean, you look at Marty Fish, you look at Andy Roddick, who's been down here a bunch playing some golf. Jim Courier and his crew came down. I hosted them playing. They're all really talented golfers. And so I see you take a tennis guy who's talented with hand-eye, we can get him on the golf course pretty quickly. So Ahmad wanted to learn how to play golf, but he was a really good tennis player, and it didn't take long. And I think it was my last day in the golf business, or last weekend, he called and said he had a game to play and if we were available. And I said I wasn't, because we already had a game. And he said that he and Michael were looking for a game, and things change very quickly when you hear that phrase. So I had, that's a bucket list, right? You get a chance to play with a legend like that. And I always thank Ahmad for that, because Ahmad made that connection. And it was fun watching the Ryder Cup and watching Ahmad and Michael Jordan out there together, watching and being cheerleaders and fans. That's pretty special too.
What was the most memorable conversation you had with MJ during that time on the links? Probably so much small talk and banter and smack talk out there. And
there was a lot of that. Yes. But the biggest laugh I got the whole time is when his caddy, he put his arm around the caddy and said, "You a Bulls fan?" And he goes, "Absolutely not. I'm a Knicks fan." And it just completely got Michael off guard, But Michael's a competitive guy. I mean, listen, he plays golf every day, and he loves the sport and that competitive nature in him, and that comes true on the golf course. So there was a lot of competitiveness there, but enjoyed that experience more than anything else, just because being around someone like that, you learn a lot.
Well, Michael Jordan might only tolerate a Bulls fan, but the tennis community as a whole is all a fan of Bob Moran and what he's doing in Charleston. Bob, this has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed this conversation. Hope I get to meet you in person one of these days. And I'm Bryan Fenley. Really appreciate you doing this.
Well, Brian, you come see us. We're going to open a brand new stadium this year. It's a remodel, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a brand new stadium. So you come see us.
We'd love it. 50th anniversary, right?
Yeah, 50 years of tennis. It's pretty special. Yeah.